Well, bombshells today from acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe testifying before the Senate Intel Committee on Capitol Hill following the firing of his former boss, James Comey. The White House saying McCabe is on the short list to replace the ousted FBI chief, but McCabe's testimony seemed to contradict some of President Trump's appraisal of turmoil at the FBI under Comey watch. Take a listen.
Is it accurate that the rank and file no longer supported Director Comey?
No, sir, that is not accurate. And it has been the greatest privilege and honor of my professional life to work with him. I can tell you also that Director Comey enjoyed broad support within the FBI and still does to this day.
And joining me now for more on McCabe's pushback and fallout from the Comey firing, we've got the A-Team Fox News contributor Byron York, former Special Assistant to President George W. Bush Ron Christie, and the Washington Examiner's Hugo Gordon. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Byron, first to you. He did. I'm first going to contradict what I initially said because he did agree with President Trump that when it came to Hillary Clinton's email and that entire mess beginning on July 5th when Comey laid out what seemed to be a case to prosecute and decided at the end not to, he did say that the FBI staff really objected to, correct?
He did, and he said there was a difference of opinion. I mean, the FBI has thousands of employees, and there was a difference of opinion. But basically, I think there were 3 headlines from what he said today, and 2 of them were favorable for the White House, and 1 wasn't. He said the White House is not interfering, has not interfered with the investigation. That's good for the White House. He knocked down reports that James Comey had asked for more money and resources for the investigation. That was good for the White House because there was this intimation that somehow Trump had fired Comey just as he was asking for more resources. And then the last thing is what you mentioned. He did say that Comey enjoyed wide support in the FBI, and that contradicted what the president said about Comey losing the confidence of people at the FBI.
So, Hugo, 2 out of 3 seems not so bad for the president.
Yeah, I thought it was not bad at all. I agree entirely with what Byron said. And the thing about saying that Comey enjoyed the support, in a way it was very silly of the president to put it that way because there are bound to be people in the FBI who would come out and say that they had full confidence in Comey. So there'll be mixed opinions on that too. But on the really clear things, that the investigation was not under-resourced and that it was not normally the way that resources would have been requested, and that there was absolutely no sort of decline or diminution of the investigation. All of those things that McCabe said were actually in the president's favor.
But, Ron, you look at the mainstream media and you see this breathlessness about how everything that McCabe says seems to contradict Trump talk and how, in fact, the president's in deeper. I mean, when are we ever going to find some kind of truthful statement or recap of what has happened on Capitol Hill from the press, if ever?
Good evening, David. I don't think we will, certainly not in the short term. The narrative that the mainstream media wants to spin here is that, of course, the President of the United States fired Comey because, of course, in this investigation, they were closing in on him about this Russian influence in our election, and therefore Comey had to go to spare the president the embarrassment. Fact of the matter is, when you listen to what the director of the FBI had said previously, there was no collusion. If you look at what our intelligence communities in the House and the Senate side have said, there was no collusion directly with the president and or his campaign. But that's not the narrative that they want to spin, David. And until they decide to actually look at the facts, follow the facts, and lead to this juncture, there's no evidence. That's not in their best interest because that doesn't put eyeballs for them to sell advertising.
Well, and Ron, you get this sense that, in fact, there is this sort of determination to find something against the president that could lead to impeachment, right?
No question. This reminds me of the earliest days in the George W. Bush administration when people said that President Bush was illegitimate, that he was there improperly. Perhaps we should look at impeachment. The parallels between 2001 and where we are with President Trump resonate with me. They're going to keep digging, keep trying until they can find something, anything, David, to try to impeach him.
And Byron, there is this impeachment clock, if you will. I've seen that phrase used a couple of times in mainstream media, an impeachment clock looking for some kind of obstruction charge against the president, something that whether his firing of Comey was obstruction of justice or something else was obstruction, it's all leading to impeachment, that's what they want.
There's no doubt there are members of Congress who want to remove the president from office. I mean, Maxine Waters has talked about impeach 45, 45 being the president. There's also been talk about using the 25th Amendment to somehow declare the president unfit, perhaps mentally unfit for office, to try to remove him. But this is all about 2018, because bills of impeachment began in the House of Representatives, and one is not going to begin in a Republican House of Representatives. So they have to win the House. And then I do think you'll have serious talk, whatever Trump has done by that time, you'll have serious talk about impeachment.
I want to talk about the House, Hugo, but I don't want to get away from the media for the moment, because I love Rush Limbaugh's description of how he thinks everybody's got it wrong. Most people think it's Democrats influence the media. He says it's exactly the opposite, that the media is actually now in charge and really kind of guiding all of the various political narratives that are picked up by politicians. Do you see any of that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in that. The media are immensely powerful, and they are clearly, I mean, they have been described by the president as you know, his enemy, or the enemy of the American people, and to some extent they are proving him right. There's a lot of what is going on in media reporting which shows a distinct animosity towards him. I think that there's, you know, even if one doesn't get to impeachment, there's no downside on this for the Democrats, because they are undermining the president's ability to govern. I mean, if they can make him a failed president, that's pretty much as good, because then they can win in 2020.
Ron, do you think that's a little too conspiratorial, that the media is pushing this political agenda?
Absolutely not. And going back to what Byron said, I think it's very important to recognize the significance of what he said. Articles of impeachment have to start in the House of Representatives. The Democrats' main target right now is to retain control of that chamber so that they can find a way to try to bring articles. The Republicans are going to do everything they can, of course, to block that route. But let's recognize, we're not talking about leading the country. We're not talking about health care. We're not talking about North Korea. We're only talking about the fantasy issues that they possess and that they have of doing anything that they can to bring this president down.
If they are fantasy issues, we'll find out. But the fact is, Byron, that there are some serious issues that are being put on hold. Today, maybe it's a small example, but not to the people concerned. There was supposed to be a hearing on seniors and their ability or inability to get proper health care. They tabled that issue because they said the Russia thing was so important. So there is real legislation that is being sidelined for this wild goose chase.
Well, Democrats do, of course, have the power to slow down the Senate, and they have the power to withdraw even the minimal support that they have given. Notice one example here. Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General who played this key role in firing Comey.
He wrote the letter that came out on Tuesday morning. Yeah, go ahead.
He was confirmed just a couple of weeks ago on a vote of 94-6 in the Senate, and Republicans have cited that vote as evidence that he has wide bipartisan support, and therefore this act of firing Comey is more legitimate. And I think the lesson for this for Democrats is, well, let's not have any more 94 votes. Make the Republicans pass everything they can on 50, 51, or 52 votes without Democratic help. So if you thought things were bad in the Senate, they could actually get worse because of this.